All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dance Studio Network podcast, where joining me today is special guest, dancer extraordinaire. Who do we have the honor of joining us today? Go ahead and tell everybody.
Hi, I'm Kaylie Bullock Null. I'm a principal dancer with Central Illinois Ballet.
Awesome. Straight to the point. See?
That's who I am.
That's it. That's what it's about. So today we're going to get straight to the point and talk a little bit about dance. But more importantly, this week, you joined us to be one of our guest artists to come in and work on choreography, dance techniques. So maybe just kind of walk us through what that process is like from your side.
Well, the funny thing about being a guest that no one really realizes is that you're incredibly nervous because you're walking into a situation that it's completely impossible to be prepared for. Like, you don't know the skill level of the students, and you don't know how. I mean, in this case, I did have a pretty good idea of how many students I would be teaching, and but often you don't. And for a dancer who usually likes to be prepared, that can be kind of scary. So it's a chance to step out and have an experience as an instructor or as a professional that you wouldn't normally have. But your students made it really easy. They were lovely, just wonderful to work with. I had some of your older dancers from my very first class, and they walked in, and I introduced myself, and they introduced themselves, and then we danced, and it was very easy.
And that's, you hear the term that like dance is universal language. And it really is amazing how quickly a common interest such as this can introduce new people. Like if you went to a park or somewhere else, like to walk up to somebody who's brand new and you're like, hi, like we're going to like hang out and do activities. Let's throw a Frisbee together. You might be like, what in the world? Like, who's this? But with dance, bringing that network together, no pun intended, brings that opportunity to kind of share. And I always love to watch this mutual, it is a dance. Like you're figuring out the students are figuring out you. But when you bring that excellence and there's that level of respect, now it's like, hey, we're ready to do some work.
Yeah, I think especially coming from primarily a ballet background where respect is so ingrained into the tradition of ballet, when there's that mutual respect, it allows both parties to come into the studio and have an experience that's really positive without a lot of preparation, and that's just a really special thing. Respect is often frowned upon in our culture, and it's really such a valuable thing to be able to look at someone else and say, I am different from you, and you are different from me, but we can have a relationship that is beneficial to both of us. And I think that dancers get to experience that in a really special way. So.
Well, I think that's beautifully put, because teaching people nowadays to learn how to cross over different borders and boundaries to meet new people, new instructors, professional artists, it seems simple to understand, but actually more difficult to execute, right?
Yes, and it's very hard as an adult in a position where you're trying to guide children to figure out how to navigate that in a way where they feel loved, but also they're held to a standard, but mostly we're respecting each other.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that's the fun, discovery portion of it. And I know with kids coming out of this, COVID situation, learning how to re-socialize, reconnect, rebuilding that attention span, following directions, being maybe a little uncomfortable. Like this isn't like normal at all. Like everybody's like, hey, we're back to normal. But I'm like, it's not quite, because people have to rebalance their mental focus and stamina as well as what's required physically to dance. And then you've got just so many different things that they're learning or growing through. And maybe this is their first year back into dance after taking a little break. So it's kind of like maybe they were used to doing more than they did before, but now they're having to relearn some steps. And then other kids, maybe this is just growing like normal. So you've got this mixture. So I guess from your experience, what is it you like to do to challenge dancers that maybe get them out of their comfort zone, or maybe yourself?
Oh, that's a very broad question. Let me decide what direction I'm going to go with it. I like to think that every student that walks through the door of my classroom has something special inside of them, and it is my job to pull it out. And so I think that it's different for every student, which can be hard because some kids are like, why are you treating this dancer this way and not me? But they each have something special inside of them. And for some, they need to be pushed and have some really tough love and say, I understand that you like to stand in the back. I understand that's safe for you. But I am going to literally grab you by the hand and I'm going to pull you to the front of the classroom, and you're going to stand here, and you're probably going to mess up the whole combination because you're so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But those are the moments where they realize that they can do it. And I always tell my kiddos back home, like, the hardest time is the first time when you step out of your comfort zone. And so if you do it once, then the next time it's going to be easier. And that's how we build confidence, is we just keep going back and we do it over and over again. But then you have other students who come in who have a different personality, who, and this is by no means like a bad thing, but they have a little more pride, and which can be a really positive
good,
thing.
like good confidence is a good thing to work with.
But they may not be as willing to learn. And so as an instructor, you come to them with a little bit of a different approach and saying, there's a reason why I'm in charge. I have such and such credentials, and I'm not telling you those things because I want to look down on you, but because I believe that I have something to share with you. And I've worked really hard to get where I am. And I value humility in the classroom. And in my situation where I'm still dancing, but I'm also a mom, and I'm married, and I'm very much an adult. But I have to step into the studio every day and be a student. And the world would be such a different place if we as adults could all take on that take on that burden of always being a learner. And so anyway, all that to say, I think it's different for every kid. And I think that's perfect. A beautiful thing. Well,
that's what dance is, right? You know, finding the unique expression within each child. And I like that, what you said, just to, point that out, looking at what that kid needs.
Yes.
And that is one thing that, as a parent, like, you want to know you're doing a good job to give your kid what they need. And so as an instructor, they're going, cool, I can look beyond your objective perspective, and I can see things that you don't see. And this is how I'm going to challenge, or how I'm going to work with. And some kids need a bit more nourishment. Other kids, like you said, need a little tough love. Other kids need more direction and guidance. And not any two students are the same.
Absolutely. And aren't our kids different for us than they are for other people?
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? And so
my kid's the same way. Yeah, 100%.
So, like, I'm always curious when I talk to my girls as preschool teachers. I was like, what do you see? And and what their feedback is so different, but it's so valuable because it allows me as a parent to kind of peel back the layers of who my child is growing into.
Yeah.
So I like to think that I go along the journey with my students' parents.
Well, I think it's important. And I think that's why, again, we jump on these shows. We want to bring people into that conversation of intentionality. So when you walk in, you see an instructor who's coming in to teach a class, they're like in a frame of reference. They're already mapping out the steps they're going to do, who needs what. They're looking at their kids. They're assessing the environment. There's so much going on in that mind. And into like the passerby who's like, hey, they're just listening to music, like they have no idea. But I mean, like, look at every sports teams. Look at all these people. What do you see before they go on to compete and perform? They're listening to music. So what does that say about dance and the industry itself? Is this music has the ability to move you into a place of motivation or inspiration or creativity or focus or intensity. It is that powerful that it shapes every other type of industry. And here we go, is we don't like listen to music and then go do something else. Like, we listen to music and then take it further.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people who've never danced before never experienced that. And that's what's really cool, that, when you teach and you're amazing at that, but diving into still dancing as a professional, you understand the work ethic it also takes. So I guess, do you have any fun songs that you listen to before a big performance? Total random. Yeah.
I don't think so. When I was younger, I certainly did.
Okay.
But I think I realized I reached a new threshold in my career when I was in a dressing room with some younger dancers and they were listening to Justin Bieber. And I was like,
Interesting.
This is just not how I prepare to go on stage.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that for me, where I am in my career, because I've been dancing professionally for a decade, and like I still hope and pray that I have lots of years left,
Yeah.
but I can see the end, and I think,
Does it
and I've
change?
watched other people retire, and I'm going to get emotional. Like, I understand how precious every moment is on stage.
Yeah.
And so, when I'm in the dressing room before a show, like, I just like to be like, just grateful for
Yeah.
the opportunity I've been given and the character that I get to take and put on stage. And in some ways almost have a prayerful, moment of just like, I hope that when I step onto the stage, I'm able to give the audience a look into a part of the human condition that maybe they aren't confronted with on a normal basis, or maybe even that with their type of personality, it's hard for them to empathize with. And as an artist, it's my job to get on stage and perform a character that maybe even I don't have any real life experience with. Like, I danced Mrs. Lovett in our ballet Sweeney Todd, and Mrs. Lovett is so complex. But to like peel away the layers of her character, and she almost becomes an adoptive mom in a sense. She's also a woman who's in love. She has a lot of larceny in her as well. Like, and you know, to find those parts of me that can bring out those aspects of the character and give the audience a chance to look at humanity in that way. I think that's what keeps me coming back to the stage at this point in my career. Don't get me wrong, I love the hype of being on stage. And
I think that's really vulnerable, though. Like, I appreciate you really sharing that, because I think when you're young, you're always looking forward to like what you're working up towards.
Yes.
So then,
in the moment.
Exactly. That's exactly what and I'm going like, it really sounds to me you've reached that place of living in the moment.
Yes.
And I mean, thinking back to when you were a child dancer.
Oh gosh. Yes.
I mean, would you tell yourself to just live in the moment more?
I would tell myself, invest in training. Like, the daily habits that you have are going to shape your career more than any dream, more than your talent.
Yeah.
And to invest in those daily habits. Like, I have a warm-up routine that I do every day before class, and those are the things that really shape your career. So I would tell myself to train more. And then I would tell myself, when I didn't get the casting I really wanted, or I didn't like the recital costume, or, you know, all the things, I would tell myself that this is a moment and this is an experience that you're never going to have again. So you might as well embrace it and get like, squeeze every drop out of it, so that when it's over, said and done, you have you've learned everything you can from that moment. So anyway,
well, I love that. I mean, this is behind the curtain, folks. This is what makes artists so amazing and complex in your heart. You're feeling the way you shape and create. And again, like, you dabble between both the teaching side and the professional dancing side. And I think that's where a lot of these kids up and coming, they have, you know, hey, I have a dream, I want to do this. But, you know, I've seen a lot of talented people. You know, I grew up in Southern California, so, like, you know,
lots of
talent everywhere. And talent can get you pretty far.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I've always found that your daily disciplines or your weekly habits, whatever you want to call them, that is what shapes you over the longevity. So, like, you're not slacking off in like a class that maybe you've already kind of mastered, but you know the technique in there, and you know where you can kind of get away with maybe not giving 100%, not slacking.
Yeah.
You know, not letting yourself go just because you think you've already got it. And most of the artists I meet across this industry have their own, like their special little recipe. And that's why, like I said, like whether it's music, whether it's a special song, whether it's a mental shift or a focus, I'm always curious to kind of find what that is for you. And I think, you know, kind of playing it back here, people will hear like you really live in the moment and appreciate whether, you know, there's more of them to come or if it was your last.
Yeah, I struggled with anxiety a lot, like rehearsing something and it looking a certain way in the studio and then getting onto the stage and just like being in the curtain, being like, is it going to happen the way that I did it in rehearsal? And my artistic director, who is such a mentor to me in the studio, she said, Kaylie, you just have to live in the moment. She said, you have to put all of that in a box and you have to walk on stage and know you're never going to get it back. And like, I remember what costume I was wearing. I remember where I was on the stage, and believe it or not, she said that to me, and then I got on the stage and I blew the first turn. I was so upset. But I took that with me, and I was like, that's who I want to be. Like, I want to be in the moment, and I want to give that to the audience. You can be a very selfish performer, or you can be a very generous performer. And
please expand on that. Oh, please. We're digging into the good stuff. Yes. I love that, because there is a difference.
Oh, absolutely. And the audience knows. The audience knows. In fact, there was a young lady who I encountered this week, and she's a very, very generous performer. And some people it's more natural to them, and some people are more naturally a selfish performer. But what I mean by that is that there are some people who get on stage and it's all about them. Like, they love the eyes, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we all love the eyes.
Absolutely.
But there's a sense of like, they're gonna beat out, you know, the girls around them to get all the attention. And then there are generous performers who come on stage and have an introspection about them that allows the audience to get past kind of all of the bravado and really see into their soul. And I think those are the performers that over the course of history remain. Like, those are the...
well, it raises the performance of everybody.
Yes, it does. It challenges everyone around you, especially when the generous performer starts to get recognition and the selfish performer is like, now wait a second.
Where's my
right? Like, I'm doing all the things and I want it so bad. But I think when you step away and you acknowledge the bigger picture, and I mean, but isn't that part of life? Like, or just a fact of life, that when we live life big and for the benefit of our community, we encounter a greater reward than when we just focus on ourselves.
I mean, I couldn't even agree anymore if I was. I think that's just the golden nugget, living it out for the community. No, those are wise words, because it puts context to things that it's hard to quantify sometimes. And again, when you're young, how are you supposed to know all this stuff grown up?
You're not. That's what mentors are for.
There you go. So you better have a good mentor, a good somebody who's pouring into your life. And that's why it's important to build loyalty, because no one will know you better than the people who invest the most in you. And so, like, with this next generation of dancers coming up, I know there's that, like, I'm always looking for the next hottest, best thing.
Oh, I want to speak to this.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Jump on in. I'm just going to pass it on over.
There is such value in getting on board with where your instructors or your artistic director or where your leader are there, to put yourself in a position where you go, what matters to the person who's in the front of the room? What are they looking for? And to take away the glasses that you have on of you as the dancer, you as the human, saying, this is what's important.
Yeah.
This is what I need to focus on. If I can just do this, then I will be successful. But if you step back and you say, okay, this person is in the front of the room for a reason, and they've chosen to be here, and what are they trying to teach, and what are they trying to get across? And and then sticking with them for a while.
Yeah.
And going through a little bit of life with them. Like, there's so much value.
Yeah.
There's so much value. And that's,
Well, I would liken it for maybe a common understanding. It's kind of like when you watch a show, right? You get on Netflix and everybody binges. So everybody knows how this works. Like, I'm going to just explore this new show. I'm going to explore this new artist, a new teacher maybe I've never taken from. Maybe it's not something I would normally pick from. And you know what? You spend a little time, and then it reveals partial of their story or their artistry or their talent, what they're giving. And then all of a sudden, the more you dig deeper in with that mentor or artist or teacher, the more you learn all about what it took to even get them here today. Mm-hmm. So for kids that I see that are up and coming, like, yes, go on Instagram, be inspired, but at the same time, be planted in a place that is going to procure the type of outcome that you're looking for. And when you're just jumping from place to place or thing to thing, it's hard, like a plant, it's not going to get rooted deep, and it's not going to handle when the storms come.
Right, and we wouldn't do that with our math teachers. You wouldn't like go from one math book to the other math book. You wouldn't know what was going on. And dance is very much the same way. Like, we have to have a foundation, and then we build on it. And every teacher has a different approach, and all of those approaches are valuable. Well, the good teachers, all of those approaches are valuable. There are bad dance teachers, we must acknowledge.
There's bad actors, I mean, and that has to be, that accountability has to be held.
Yes.
And so again, hey, we get on here, we're going to tell it how it is. We want you to know what's going on. So again, you, like in any industry, in any place, there's going to be people who represent it well and those that maybe are shortchanging it. So for those kids that are up and coming, I guess even to the ones you worked with this week, maybe what's some advice that you would give them to kind of continue on in their journey?
Can I call them out a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah. What do you want to? Yeah, go for it.
Get to class on time.
Oh, snap. Yes.
If class starts at 9:00, you should be in the building by 8:50, and you should be in the studio. Before the clock strikes 9. So that would be that for my lovely students who I enjoyed so much this week. That was just really interesting. I haven't had that experience before. So maybe at least for your guest artists, be in the studio before 9:00.
Be ready, be prepared.
Yes, but also in life, you don't show up to a meeting 5 minutes late or an interview. So,
Very
timeliness is key. But on a completely different side of the coin. I often tell dancers, it's not the most talented dancers that get a job. It's the dancers that keep going back, and they keep going back to the studio, and they keep going back to the audition. And I can very easily say I'm not the most talented dancer that I've ever danced with. But I just kept going back. And,
that persistence.
Yes.
And that's, I think, a resiliency in this next generation we really want to cultivate. And, like when you don't get that part, I guess maybe share what that's like as an adult. Like,
oh, well, it never gets easier.
What? I mean, you're like, oh, it's okay. No, it's.
I always laugh when people say, oh, well, it gets easier. And I go, but does it? I think you just learn to cope with it better. It never gets easier. I have a process. Like I cry. And then I think about how badly I wanted the part. And I think about how excited those dancers must be who did get the part. And it doesn't negate how I feel, but it gives me another perspective
on how you
that I don't want to be ugly towards
someone won a part that we're all competing for.
Yeah, because everybody wants the same part. Like everyone wants Clara, or everyone wants the Sugar Plum Fairy. And
so
let's not fault the people who got the part. Let's mourn it on our own on our own side of the the table, and luckily email has become the way to get cast lists out, I feel like. And so like you don't have to go sit and look at the piece of paper on a bulletin board.
Oh man. Did you have memories of doing that?
Oh, it was awful. So you would like look at the bulletin board. Yeah. You look at the bulletin board, and then you'd like try to keep a very, no matter what you see, you'd keep a very like
you had to
neutral
manage
face,
your,
and then you go to the bathroom,
and then you hand your emotions out elsewhere. See, you know, again, that's kind of the old school faced harder reality. Is like, oh, you didn't make it, and you're like, okay, I guess it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. That has changed the dynamic, but I think, you know, I think what I love, what I heard you say is go back. And if you don't get the part, don't beat yourself up. Don't, you know, sit there and feel sorry for yourself. Get back to work, because there's so many more. And I mean, in the professional world, I mean, it's impossible to think you're going to just nail every single job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is usually one person who looks at the cast list and has got the part they wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when everyone wants to dance Clara, unless there are two casts, like one person got
Probably
the part.
Probably going to be one. Yeah.
And so that's just a really hard reality of dancing. And it will never go away. Like,
yeah. So it's better to like learn how
cope.
learn how to cope, learn how to develop the understanding of how these processes work, so that, you know, when you win with a sense of grace and humility. When you lose, you don't become sour or salty about it. Mm-hmm. And you get back to the studio or wherever you're training, and you keep progressing.
Right.
So
don't focus on why the person shouldn't have gotten it, but focus on yourself and what you can improve on, and then take whatever part you got and, my goodness, make it the best thing that hits the stage, because that's what will get the attention of your leaders, and they'll remember.
I love it. Well, goodness. Well, this is so much fun. We love having you out here. Obviously, this Ballet Intensive brought to you by Miss Ann Bailey and so many more members, from Dana, from Michael, from Ann Model, from all these team members and all other guest artists. Natalie, who else am I leaving out? Julia, and anyone else? Did I come from all? That was 6. Yeah, we had 6 artists in the studio this week doing Ballet Intensive. Phenomenal. But what's neat that I get to observe, because I'm on the other side of it, is watching the imprint that you leave behind. And I look at every artist as like a fingerprint. And when you come in contact with that, you know, like you're gonna leave an imprint behind. So to me, thank you for flying out here and being a part of our experience. And gosh, I think we've got so much more we're going to have to unpack. We'll have to bring you on via phone call next time.
Okay.
But, you know, for the professional world, a lot of dancers want to know, like, what's it take to stay in it, to make it? And I think you gave some amazing points today. So if there's anything else for our audience, whether it's at our studios or just in general, anything you would love to say, you know, about dance or your story or journey, anything else I could add to this? I mean, you pretty much hit it right on the head there.
I don't think so. I think I'd like to affirm that you guys have a really special thing going on here with all your different studios and the Dance Studio Network. And I'm really excited to see someone come into the dance community and say, we can be better. Yeah. This art form is very, very special to all of us. And we're not going to water that down, but we are going to try to make the next generation stronger. And I think we have to do that to see the art form grow and not die out. So thank you for that. Thank you for this week. It's been a really, really special experience for me. You have thumbprinted on me, and I just adore your students and the positivity they bring into the studio, and I can't wait to hear how they grow. I was talking to Miss Dana, and she was telling me about her students and just seeing the love on her face for her students. And my goodness, as a parent, like, don't we want that for our kids? For some other adult to say, I care about your kid. And so thank you for doing what you're doing. It's very, very special. And well, gosh. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Hey, well, you know, I'll take it. Thank you. No, it's a journey together. And I really appreciate your sincerity and just your honesty to look at how we do things. So thanks for joining us today. I will start to sign off there, but everybody, thank you for tuning in to this week's message with Kaylie of the Dance Studio Network. Whether you're ready to grow professionally, whether you're ready to grow as a dancer, keep on getting back to the studio, working hard, and believe in yourself and watch your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Chatham. Take it easy.